Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I really wish we'd watched Lake Placid.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Lake Mungo, which released in 2008 from writer-director Joel Anderson. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows the Palmer family. They have recently tragically lost their daughter Alice, who died while swimming, and have also recently started to experience some paranormal supernatural activity inside their home. As they invite a documentary crew into their home to document these events, they start to uncover certain secrets in Alice's life that they didn't realize were there.
So in 2008, Lake Mungo released and, well, it kind of disappeared along with the writer-director. He was never seen or heard from by anyone in the film industry again, until recently where he got hired as the script supervisor for Late Night with the Devil, where clearly they thought someone who had expertise in doing a mockumentary style might have some insight on how to do this, which I'm kind of glad to see that he's still working, because after Lake Mungo came and became as barren as the Lake Mungo itself. It's like, yeah, no one really talks about this film anymore.
No. There's, I think, many reasons why not many people talk about this film, but I don't think I've got anything to say. Nothing good, anyway.
Well, the actual Lake Mungo is a real location in New South Wales, Australia, where they discovered the oldest human remains that were buried in ritualistic garbs.
Was it the director?
40,000 years old, this corpse, and
Whoa.
it became known as the Mungo Woman. And then later on, they also found a male skeleton as well.
Oh.
So it's actually quite a famous archaeological site now.
Yeah.
And is also the name of the film and a location where our characters will end up at some point.
I do have a point, though. Like, the movie is called Lake Mungo, and we actually only go there, like, a tiny bit.
Yeah, well,
And it's really not even a big plot point, but a little bit.
Where this film's narrative starts, the events that happened at Lake Mungo have already occurred, but
Yeah.
this is a mockumentary style film, so it will look and sound like an actual documentary, but of course none of this is real. It's, even though there's found footage, none of it's real, so just get that out of the way from the get-go.
Yeah.
But the film does open quite strongly in setting the mood and the tone and the atmosphere with these old-timey looking pictures with ghostly apparitions in the background, whilst the documentary layers in sound bites that you'll hear throughout the rest of the hour-and-a-half runtime to kind of, ferment in the back of your mind as the narrative unfolds before you when you recall things that you've already heard from the opening of the film. And I think it sort of sets the tone really quite well.
Alice kept secrets. She kept secrets a secret.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Like, music-wise and visuals, like, off the bat, you're looking at something paranormal and supernatural. You know, you've probably watched these ghostly documentaries like a million times, and so when they do it in film form, it's very easily to establish that, you know, something scary or nasty has happened. And for me, like, this movie came out the year after Paranormal Activity, and so with experience with films, like when a film comes out and does really well, all of a sudden you get a flurry of like movies that are trying to copy it. You know, found footage type movies, documentary style. You know, we're following these people who go to this place and then, you know, deal with something spiritual, sketchy. The movie establishes that the Palmer family, you've got Russell Palmer, played by David Pledger, Rosie Traynor playing June Palmer, and Martin Sharpe playing Matthew Palmer. Mum, dad, and son are talking to an unknown documentary crew about their daughter Alice, played by Talia Zicker, who tragically drowned at a lake that they were out as a family. Now, I was saying this to Gary, one of the things that threw me off, and this has been the only second time that I've watched it. The first time I watched it, I was like, that was shit. I don't ever want to watch it again. And then somebody went, hey guys, can you review this? And we were like, okay.
Let's prepare ourselves for this one.
Yeah. let's go. Because there's a twist. Like, I think that for me is the one thing that I'll always remember about Lake Mungo is the twist. And we'll get to the twist. But we're establishing now the mum, dad, and son talking to this unknown documentary crew that their daughter's sister Alice has died. And this will lead up to the paranormal events. But I already felt off the bat that there should have been like somebody to lead us through that narrative. Somebody to say, oh, we're the documentary crew who heard about the Palmers and come to, investigate
I think
it.
that would be a huge disservice to the film to add in additional characters that are not relevant to the story.
Well, that's you. But for me, like, I'm just looking at mum and dad talking to a camera and I can hear a voice off the bat. So I know that there's somebody there asking them questions. I don't know who. So I'm like, what are we going with here? Are you trying to interview them for a TV show? Is this for your local news report? Are you an out-of-towner group that have heard about this and have come to here because nobody else really believes this? I know this is a lot of many different questions, but a lot of other documentary-style ghost programs like this establish this very well. So maybe Lake Mungo said, I won't do that for change.
So you need someone like Zach Baggins to turn up like, hey, our ghost hunters today, we're with the Palmer family. What happened to your daughter?
Yeah.
That would be disgusting for this film.
Well,
it would ruin it entirely.
From your perspective, nothing could ruin this movie. From my perspective, this movie is already ruined and anything could... I'm trying to elevate the movie from the cesspool that I see it in.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, he's shocked. Because we start to establish that the daughter Alice drowned and that the police have been investigating and obviously looking for the body. And then they found the body. And then we start to establish that mum wouldn't look at the body because obviously she loved her daughter so much that she couldn't bring herself to...
Understandable response.
Which are understandable. But then the narrative will start to continue as well that mum and daughter didn't actually really have a close relationship.
Yeah, well, that's something that
Which...
There's tidbits of that dropped throughout the whole film. And yeah, it does become more apparent the more the film underlines that point.
Yeah, but that for me is just to hammer home the twist for later.
What twist? I don't think there's revelations in the film. I don't think there's any twists.
Well, you call it a revelation. I call it a twist to keep the plot going because there hasn't been another spiritual ghost-like movie to actually do what Lake Mungo did. And it's really the only point that a lot of people will remember Lake Mungo. I mean, some people might remember it as well acted, but the actors didn't go off to do anything else or win awards.
Well, that's what I really like about this cast is that none of them, they're all unknowns. Granted, some of them might have been in Home and Away and Neighbours, but...
Because they're Australian and that's where it's all from.
But I didn't recognise any of these faces. They felt like a grieving family. They didn't feel like actors at all. And that was what I really was drawn to, was the authenticity of their performances. And even I've heard in the notes that the director was like, here is the scene, here is the feel, here's the vibe, this is what I need you to convey, but ad-lib and be natural about it. And that's what I felt coming across in all of the interviews. And I also like that we do then also have archival footage from the family, which also shows some of the scenes before the tragedy and before the documentary crew got there, and they have access to some of that tape, some of that footage. And I was like, okay, so it just felt absolutely seamless. And because of how well edited this mockumentary was, that you feel like it's a real documentary. Precision editing, great moments of silence after one of the characters is finished saying one of their pieces, and sometimes layered in with footage of the liminal spaces of the empty house where you're expecting an entity or a person that would have been is no longer there. And I just thought that the film was just building up that building tension of maybe there is something there and we just can't see it yet, because that's what does get the film get the ball rolling a little bit, is that they are having weird feelings in the house. We get night shots of flickering lights. The mum starts explaining that she feels like there's something in the house at night, and when she wakes from her terrors, she can't open her eyes, and so sometimes she will just go for a walk and go into the neighbours' houses to enjoy somebody else's life temporarily. There'll be more on that a bit later on when we get more into what happened with Alice and what she's going through.
Which... At the same time, a lot of the archival footage shows us that they're a very happy family. They're having a great time together. But the narrative has to drive the reason of why Alice will do certain things. And for me, it just doesn't work. Like you said, to you, they're a grieving family. To me, I don't think we see them cry once.
This is 6 months or more after the fact.
Yeah, six months.
We're not the documentary crew wasn't there the day they
No.
died.
I absolutely get that. You know, but they act like they are. You know, there's certain sequences where the dad will say they did something 6 months before, and we watch the footage through the camera as if it's a reenactment or the documentary crew was there. Like the sequence where dad says, oh, we went to the morgue to check the body after they'd retrieved the body from the lake. And our car broke down, so we had to reverse drive to the town. And so that's what we watch. The car reverse. Why?
Because they've put in a bit of footage of a car reversing just to have some visuals to accompany the retelling of the story.
Who's recording that? The
documentary crew, of course, yeah.
So they got a car themselves to just revert back and
just
filmed
to
it
fill
themselves.
in some scenes, yeah.
Well, why? We're not
to supplement the story.
We're not establishing the documentary crew as any other entity other than this camera that we, the audience, are using as a perspective on the family.
Yeah.
So why drive the idea that
I'm glad it's
crew
there
is
and
there?
you are aware of it, because at least you're triggering your thought process to go, actually, they wouldn't have filmed that. That's like a conventional scene.
Yeah.
Somebody must have inserted that there. So at least you're immersed in the world so far. Well, that's what that clip is also there for. But also, it's also to show that, yes, something weird may have happened at the morgue. And the dad says, like, his way of grieving was to throw himself into work, but he's still not fully over it. And that's why he leaves the porch light on in case his daughter comes back. Even though he knows he's the only member of the family that actually saw Alice's body.
Yeah.
So he already knows there's absolutely no way she's coming back, but he still leaves the light on. And part of me also thinks that him driving the car back in reverse, he had obviously the headlights on the whole time, and he led Alice all the way home and left the light on for her to come into the house to start haunting the place.
Right. Okay.
I can't confirm that. That's my interpretation.
That's your interpretation.
Because otherwise, why bother even explaining that they had to drive backwards?
Exactly. For me, it's the art style of the mockumentary. You know, we have to pretend it's a mockumentary crew, but we haven't established it's a mockumentary crew because obviously we don't want to bring the tone of the movie down by having some host there with a camera crew. But we have to relay the footage for the audience to see. Otherwise, all we're going to have is what we see on our TV screens in Netflix productions and whatever documentaries are just the interview footage that you have with people, because the other stuff you see actually says at the bottom, reenactment. They have to tell you it's reenactment so you don't believe that it's real. But it's also, for me, as the narrative goes, we're having the family tell us what happened from the point that Alice died up to the point that they're doing this mockumentary interview with this team of people. And so they have to go through the process about what they were feeling or what they were dealing with, up until somebody also reveals that actually it was them messing around the entire time. You know, Matthew's like, oh, Mum and Dad say there's something supernatural going on in the house and we're all dealing with grief in our own way. So I set up video cameras so that we could see if there was anything going on in the house. And so that's what you see. Blair Witch style, Paranormal Activity style, camera footage, grainy footage. Like, it did make me laugh that you'll never see that nowadays. Because cameras are so fucking high precision.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot have grainy view. If you're going to see a fucking ghost, it's going to be in fucking 4K.
Probably why we haven't seen any. That's a shame.
Yeah, but wait, let me continue, because Matthew's just like, yeah, I set these cameras up and this is what we captured. You see this footage? It was like a figure moved through the night, you know? And then I took a photo of the back garden and we saw the figure of Alice and we're like, oh, Alice is here. And the movie for me has already established that feeling very, very well. I didn't need this fake camera, fake photo footage to do that, because then Matthew will turn to us and go, oh yeah, I faked it. I was wearing my sister's hoodie as I walked through the house. I was standing in the back garden pretending to be... Sorry. He took a photo that he took of Alice and superimposed it on the photo that he did. Anytime we see images of Alice's reflections in something that at first you're like, oh, it's a ghost. It's actually not. He set it up with a TV fucking video footage.
Now, it's about the 40-minute mark in the film where that revelation comes out, and then you're like, well, we're halfway through the film and we've just debunked this haunting?
Yeah.
So, where's the film going to go from here?
That also, I've got to admit, that also kind of annoys me, is because I get that you're going to pretend that it's fake to keep the story going, because then you can put in spiritual stuff to make people go, oh, maybe it was a ghost there the whole time. But the feeling I've got from the movie right from the start is that there is a ghost. Mm-hmm. There is a presence.
There is.
There is something there. Alice is trying to tell us something. And this, like I said, brings me to what I consider to be the twist in Lake Mungo, or the revelation as people perceive it, is that Alice's dad had heard noises going on in her bedroom after she'd passed away. And so was going into her room and wasn't sure what it was. And so when Matthew reveals to you that he was kind of pretending to be the ghost, you're like, oh, it was Matthew. But in one of the photos, you do see a face in the corner. I spotted it the first time before Matthew reveals it. I was like, what the fuck's that? That shouldn't be there. And then when they zoom it in, they realize that it's Brett Toohey, the neighbor.
What's he doing in our deceased daughter's bedroom?
Our 16-year-old deceased daughter's bedroom, who Alice had been babysitting with them for like 2.5 years because they had 2 little boys. What could the guy be looking for? Well, it turns out that Alice has a sex tape. While babysitting for the Tooheys, something has happened at some time, at some point. We're not really told the details. And I think that as well is what the movie tries to do as a twist, revelation, whatever, is have this in as a plot point, but not to go too deep into it because it will get really fucking dark. Mm-hmm. We're going with the idea that Alice, the 16/17-year-old girl who feels like the world isn't seeing her, who feels like her parents don't love her, in which they do, because we see all the footage for fucking 40 minutes of them happy. There's not anything that would, like, I would have liked it if Mum had been like, yeah, me and Alice never got along.
There's elements of it, but they don't state it like that.
Exactly.
You can't dismiss that.
No, I'm not.
It's a huge part
I'm not
of
dismissing it. What
Alice
I'm saying
being
is
neglected.
They don't go into too much depth for it, which doesn't give it the fuel for this situation, for her to have sex.
People don't
with
usually
this
film,
man.
the miserable moments in their lives. They only film the happy moments normally.
Right.
Which is why we have the archival footage of a happy-looking family. But when you get beneath that, that's the Lynchian thing, and there's a very Twin Peaksy kind of resemblance in the film. Like, you have on the surface, a perfectly functional, happy-looking family, but they've got skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, the sense of privacy, the sense of that there is their own private life that they will either choose to share or to not share, I guess.
Partly blame myself. That's come from me. Maybe it came from my mother. As a mother, you've still always got doubts that you're not doing enough or you're not doing the right thing.
But that's, for me, what Lake Mungo tried to have as a plot. They needed to establish themselves with a hook for the audience. What is it that's driving the spirit of Alice to come back to do paranormal things in her house? And it's for them to find this videotape to hopefully bring the family, the neighbours, the Toohey family to justice.
I don't think it's that at all in the slightest.
Then why?
She just wants to be seen. She just wants to be seen by her family.
She was being seen. She was being seen pretty well by the neighbour and his wife.
Yeah, that's probably why she went over there repeatedly, to be seen, to be felt, to have a connection that she just wasn't getting anywhere else. We have interviews with her boyfriend that were just like, yeah, I didn't really know what she was up to. We don't really get to see Alice in the film because she's dead at the beginning.
She's dead.
So we only have snippets of what the film gives us.
Yeah, as the plot goes on, and like I said, half of this stuff, it's already 6 months later. 6 months after they found the tape. 6 months after they've had the interviews with the psychic. But the drive of the movie pretends like, oh, they don't mention any of that until we have to reach this point of the movie. It's pretty weak. It'd be one of the first things, in reality, it'd be one of the first things you'd probably want to discuss with the documentary people that you're documenting, but because the movie hasn't established the documentary people, we're just there with the camera. I get what you're looking for. I get the multi-layer, and I get that that's what the writer, the director, is also trying to go for, to give the movie the hook so that it has a longer lasting appeal in the flurry of popcorn eating kind of movies that people just have to go see. Like I said, Paranormal Activity came out with 4 movies after this, right? And made a fucking franchise out of this. You know, Annabelle, fucking The Nun, the fucking Investigator Family from fucking America with all the Conjuring movies. Oh yeah, massive flurry of fucking series of franchise movies. Lake Mungo never got that. Why? If it's so well known and so well established, you know, what is it that this movie is missing that doesn't give it the hook to make people go, oh man, you need to make, you know, more films? This director is a really well driven director.
I think my soul would leave my body if they announced a Lake Mungo 2.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a Lake Mungo 2. It could be anything else. Like I said, this guy was the screenplay supervisor for Late Night with the Devil. Late Night with the Devil was great, other than that third act. And I think at the same time, I would happily say the same thing for Lake Mungo. It establishes the paranormal stuff really, really well. It establishes that obviously the family have this kind of issue with each other that they're trying to pretend isn't there, but actually it is there. But then the twist,
they are terrible parents.
Yeah.
They might love their children, but they are oblivious to their lives.
What makes them terrible parents?
The boy, covered in bruises, have no idea how they got there.
Those bruises only appeared after Alice died.
Yeah.
But we don't know why.
Yeah, we don't. The film also, the documentary doesn't explore it.
You can't say it's the parents. You can't use that as evidence against the parents because it's not any evidence.
You'd think they'd have something to say.
You think they would have something to say.
Yeah, you would.
But as a teenager, he could be doing it to himself. He could be getting his face cleaned up.
But yeah, and exactly. But the parents don't know about it.
But he's not telling them.
Exactly.
So they're not terrible parents.
Well, they are. They should
strip their child and go, "What's this mark?"
They should pay attention to their lives. But clearly they haven't.
You can't. A child.
Okay.
Okay. A child doesn't want you there 24/7 if you are there. If you are there 24/7 in their face, telling them that they have to do all these right things and wrong things, or don't do the right thing and don't do the wrong thing, after a while they are going to seek rebelling from you.
Go and sleep with the neighbours.
Yeah. But the movie itself doesn't establish that was what Alice was going through. Alice had a great group of friends they say that.
But they never knew her. They don't know who she was.
Exactly, because they're all fictional characters. They have no back history. But at the same time, let me go on. But at the same time, one of our friends even says Alice had secrets about having secrets. Yeah. So she knew that Alice had secrets. Yeah.
Don't know what they are.
Don't know what they are. But she knew that Alice had these secrets, and so it comes down to Alice. As a parent, you can chase your child all over the place, but they will hide shit from you if they want to hide it. And I think, trying to get back onto the tangent, is that where, for me, Lake Mungo fails, because it establishes itself as this paranormal supernatural movie while trying to also establish as well that the reality of sexual relationships between teenagers and parents and adults and all this other thing is the driving force behind what is driving this spirit to come back to, like you said, be seen.
Yeah.
And yet her whole entire life, fictional character, remember, her whole entire life, Alice was hiding it herself. She hid the tape from her neighbours. She never told them that she took it, but she willingly went over there. Or from what we understand, when the police tell us, when the parents reveal to the police, look, we have this tape. We'd love to chase down the Tuohys and obviously bring them to justice. Because the Tuohys have children. So fucking, social services would definitely want to be trying to find them to obviously find the children. But fictional characters. The police turn around and say, look, we've viewed the tape and it appears consensual.
So police advice to us was that even if the Tuohys were caught, they would get off with a suspended sentence by claiming that the sex was consensual, which was a claim, supported by the video evidence.
I'm like, what?
I guess laws are different in Australia.
No! They're the same fucking laws in most places. But it's because the narrative is driven that, like you said, Alice Alice was happy to have sex with them, or
It would seem.
yeah, that she was happy to do that because she was unhappy in her real life.
I also don't know how long this was going on for, but we do know that Alice only up until about 5 to 6 months before her death did she know that she was going to die.
Yeah.
She was having dreams and visions
Yeah.
and nightmares. I can only imagine that maybe going over and sleeping with the neighbors started to happen at that point in time. We don't know how long before the going over there was happening, other
Exactly.
than the babysitting.
Yeah.
So I kind of see her as knowing that she's going to die. Can't explain it, can't articulate it. She went to see a psychiatrist. She told him about her dreams. She told a psychiatrist how her mum can't see her in her dreams, and she is knowing that she's facing death imminently. And this does build up to one of, if not the most horrifying moment in the film, where she does go to Lake Mungo with her friends, and she sees something truly horrifying. She sees her own spectral, bloated, drowned body walking towards her in the dark. And of course, this looks like found footage filmed on a phone, shaky cam, static imagery, grainy, but the image comes up on screen. And this is also then intercut with Mum still talking to the camera, as it then cuts back for a bit of a jump scare if you're not ready for it. And of course, it does use the, I guess, cliched, high stringy notes to punctuate the jump scares, but the film doesn't have any others. It just has the drawn out, oh, we're zooming into a photo and there's something in the background you didn't notice, isn't it scary? It does that a lot, and when you're in the context of the film, it's quite effective, because it's what all supernatural documentaries would do anyway. But the whole idea then that recontextualizing that, knowing that she was going to die, helps explain her behavior in the last moments up until where she did eventually drown in the dam nearby the house.
Why bury her shit?
Because she felt like she was going to die, so she gave herself her own mock funeral. She buried her most precious, prized things, which was like jewelry and her diary and other things.
But she would go
dealing with her own mortality and trying to face it and reassure herself, because she said she was afraid of dying. So she was trying to.
This is your interpretation, though.
I'm trying to explain why I would do what she did.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to establish, is obviously because the film doesn't tell us this. We find out that she went to Lake Mungo, obviously, before she would pass away, and she came back without her phone and her jewelry, but it's through another friend's videotape that they would see her burying this stuff. And so then the family go there, and I love the fact the family are like, we didn't want to dig up the tree during the day when all the tourists were there, so we waited till nighttime. Great movie. I love how you establish that. And they pick it up, they dig up the bag and they pull out the jewelry and they find the phone, they charge it, and that's when they realize that Alice was walking along and saw this spectral ghost of herself, and that's what scared her to realize that she was gonna die. And like Gary said, we haven't established really how long she's been having this sexual relationship with her neighbors, so we don't even know if the ghost is what spurred her to take the tape. We don't know if she had the tape before she went to Lake Mungo, or if after she saw the ghost version of herself, she came back, had sex with the neighbor, took the tape, hid the tape, then died, and then the neighbor went, oh shit, she's dead? Oh, we're missing one of our sex tapes? Oh, I bet she's got it next door. Or maybe they gave it to her and said, here, take it, go home. I'll love the idea of you doing whatever you're doing with it at home. Sorry, I'm getting real dirty detail. But like I said, I'm having to interpret this. Much as you're having to interpret how you feel towards Alice, I'm having my own interpretation.
It's a film that expects you to do the heavy lifting.
But I also think that that's where the movie fails. Is because for us, that's our different interpretations. There are going to be multitudes of people with their own interpretations.
Yeah, one of my favourites is the theory that the brother killed the sister. And that explains the bruises. That explains his fascination with cinematography and camera work, because he found the tape as well. And then his guilt by inserting her image into the photos and going, look, she's haunting us.
So he found the tape and then he put it back?
Well, yeah, probably. I'm just saying, these are theories.
Yeah, no, and now you've
But-
given me the theory. My
yeah.
brain's ticking with it because
I'm just like, no,
because
he
you
is
could al-
just. We get to spend
you could
time
also-
with Matthew, and
you
we
could-
find out that he is just another
yeah,
awkward.
You could also interpret that the dad is sexually abusing both children. The movie never once states that it is, but that could be what spurned Alice to go off and have sex with an older
Well,
man
at
next
least
door.
the brother having bruises on his body after she died is kind of an evidential link, which, again, it's the bruises. The documentary goes, we don't care about that. The sex
Yeah.
tape, we don't care about that. Or the
Yeah.
neighbours. It's like, if the film starts discarding lots of things.
Yeah, it does.
Whereas you'd be like, oh, well, there was ghostly evidence. Let's investigate that.
It's a plot point.
What was on that mobile phone that she captured? Like, and the film documentary was like, no, whatever. Let's
they're
discard
like,
that too.
oh.
And the mum is just like, there was something inexplicable on there which I cannot explain. Let's move on. I'm like,
That's it. You're like, hold on, you're holding what appears to be actual physical evidence that your daughter has seen her own dead supernatural self from the future, and we just won't go with it.
Of the body that I had identified at the dam. It was Ellie's body and Ellie's face.
So this is where the film starts to wind down now, because the family are like, oh, well, now we know that she saw something out at Lake Mungo, and still don't really know how she died, or she drowned, but we don't really know why or how. But we're ready to move on now, and we're going to pack up the house and move out and leave.
Yeah, I mean, we'd also been introduced to Ray Kemeny, played by Steve Jodrell, who was a radio psychic. You know, people would ring into him and he would tell them over the phone or radio, what he feels for them and stuff like that. And so the mum had come across him and obviously wanted to invite him to the house to deal with the supernatural stuff. Dad was a bit skeptical at first, and then when the evidence started to come out about obviously the son doctoring a lot of the video footage or the sex tape coming out, they realized that actually maybe they'd made a mistake with the psychic. And then it turns out that actually Alice saw the psychic, before she died, and he had it on tape. But because of doctor-patient confidentiality, he didn't think to actually mention that to mum or dad at any point in any other time that they were together, which I totally get. But I also believe personally that he would have actually had to bring that up with the police when the police were investigating this stuff, just to make sure that he had an established alibi, that he wasn't involved in her death or any of the sexual stuff that she might have been getting up to with her neighbor. But as we said, it's a fictional character that the movie is just trying to drive along with this narrative, because after the family have come to terms with Alice's reasons and her death and whatever, and are getting on with their lives, they're inviting Ray over, and he's happy to go in. He shakes the hand of Dad, gives Mums a kiss, ruffles the hair of Matthew, like, hey Matthew, you old rascal you. And like, even he's not even like, man, the fucking ghost image is like everything I've been waiting for. Like, I'm a psychic, I work on the radio, this shit'll give me a career like you won't believe, because Lake Mungo's fucking haunted. Like, ooh, no, nothing.
No, it's not that type of film. So, again, we get some more somber interviews with the mum as she's kind of getting ready to move on. And again, this is, I think, a real strength. Even though I feel like the big scare moment has happened and the film is winding down, the big emotional gut punch is still brewing. And it's again the camera moving through the house as the family are packing things up and moving things out to the car. We have the shot that we saw almost at the beginning of the film, the family, the three of them at the front of the house, and the camera does the slow pan into the window. You're like, there's a shape in the window. Is that Alice? She's still in the house.
Why would she still be in the house? Hasn't she established what she needed to do? And moved
No,
on?
because they never saw her. All she did was try to be seen, and the mum
They saw her.
in her when she was talking to the psychiatrist was like having the feeling of something at the end of her bed, and she can't even open her eyes to see it. And we also have the dreams and the diary of the daughter, who says when she's feeling like there's pressure, she feels wet and damp, and then when she goes to see her parents, they don't see her. And that's because mum also recounts later that she kept her eyes closed because she didn't want to look. Like, it's underlining how much they can't see her. And so much so that mum leaves the house to get out of the house away from her spectral daughter. But all of this was written and happened like before she passed, which is why there's like a weird paradoxical thing about seeing your future dead self. There's clearly something ghostly that happened at Lake Mungo that also affected Alice before the film started, which inexplainable. It's not what the film is about. It is about a grieving family, and it's mostly about Alice being absolutely isolated and lonely and trying to be seen by everyone, and maybe superficially seen but not spiritually seen. And it's why it is a huge gut punch that she has been now left and abandoned in the house unseen. And the film recaps some of the ghostly images that were doctored by Matthew, and then it goes, actually, you see, that's where Matthew doctored it, but if you look over there, there's Alice's ghost in that same picture, the real one. And then again here, and then again here as well. So she was actually a ghost. She was there, and even though she was in the image that was doctored, that they were doctoring, they still couldn't see the real Alice. And so that is the gut punch. That it's a really sad ending. Well, yeah, what were your favourite scenes from Lake Mungo?
I have one. It was where the dad reversed in his car, because I sat there thinking, wow, they actually filmed that.
I think the whole film is a favourite scene. There's so many memorable moments in terms of the tension, in terms of the way that it's structured and pacing, the 3 acts, as we start with the mystery, we explore and debunk the mystery, and then we get all the revelations at the end, which are really somber and really melancholic and kind of sad. But to pinpoint actual scenes is almost impossible. I do think that the acting throughout was fantastic because, again, they didn't feel like actors. The music was very minimalistic. The camera work wasn't flying all over the place. And I loved the sort of found footageness that sort of adds to the documentary feel, that the more you watch the film, the immersion sinks in more, that you sometimes have to remind yourself, yeah, actually, this is all fake. Remember, this is not a true story. But in terms of favourite scenes, mostly the interviews with the family, the moments with Mum explaining that she was unable to really tell her daughter how much she loved her, but hopes that her daughter knew how much she loved her. Yeah, the dad going to his work and interviews with his mate. He's just like, yeah, he's grieving in his own way. We all grieve in our own way. I'm not really going to tell him how to behave. And again, the stuff with Maddie as well, trying to readjust, trying to have a life. And yeah, the weirdness with the bruising and then his awkwardness. But like, he's a young kid who's also lost his sister. So I do think that they're all kind of reacting and behaving in a really believable fashion. Well, I think we know the answers to this one. Do you recommend Lake Mungo?
No. I think this is a very weak paranormal style supernatural movie that has really only one twist in it to keep it going, and even then it's very weak and isn't very well established. I'm sure there are many reasons of why I'm missing the point of this movie, but I've also got much evidence behind me to suggest that other people don't care. Nobody owns it. Nobody buys it. Nobody wanted a sequel. Nobody wanted the director to do more. Nobody even pushed the actors and actresses to actually go off to actually act and do something other than this. I'm sure that there's many people who are absolute fans of it, and I can't wait for the American remake to come out.
Oh, hell yeah, I'm recommending Lake Mungo. This is certainly worth a watch. It's a hauntingly atmospheric horror film that delivers a deeply unsettling exploration of grief and loss and loneliness whilst defying conventional genre expectations. It's a real slow burn. It's not going to appeal to everyone looking for instant jump scares, but it will reward those that get immersed into this compelling mockumentary. The performances are all convincing. The cast of unknowns felt really authentic and true. Coupled with the documentary style, it felt natural. So when the supernatural aspects kick in, it heightens the tension and creates a somber yet mysterious tone that climaxes in a particularly haunting sequence that will linger with you as it does the leads in the film. So yeah, I'm going to say this is a must-watch. It's uniquely different. It's very effective at combining the documentary style with a ghost story and a family draped in grief, with a very sad ending and one that recontextualizes the whole story. So definitely check out Lake Mungo. If you have never seen a ghost, look closer. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.